Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. So, here we are again with a new Threat Researchers Live, and today's episode, because we're nearing the end of 2020, will be about the top 10 cybersecurity predictions for 2021. With me, I have Daniel. Daniel, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm feeling like Casper today. Have a little bit of lighting issue here in Colorado. Uh,
Yeah, you look a
Very.
little bit pale. I thought it was because of corona measures. They don't let you go
Uh,
out. You don't see the sun a lot, right?
it's definitely that. A little bit of that, and also a nice little sunrise up here this morning. So battling a little bit of a light situation.
Okay. Yeah, for me the sun is already going down. It's almost down here. So we're in opposite sides of the world. For the people who don't know, is I'm based in Europe, in Belgium, and Daniel is over in the US in Colorado. So for him it's morning. For me, evening is coming in. So always get some nice pictures, and at least we have the social distancing right. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
Plus,
far
we
enough from
never
each
sleep.
other. Yeah.
It might not look like it, but yeah, we are 6 feet away.
Yeah, yeah. At least. Okay, so going into the topic without further ado, because I know it's going to be a lot of discussion. So, what we did is actually Daniel prepared his five predictions or his top five security predictions for next year. I prepared my top five. I took them together yesterday. Um, First, I didn't want to look at them, but yeah, it's kind of hard to make a deck without looking at his predictions. So I did see them. I'm sorry, I peeked. So I put them together in what seems like a normal order. So you will see five from Daniel, five from me. Some will be aligning, some will be overlapping a little bit, but there's not too much overlap. I would say that they align more than they overlap. So I think that we have a lot to discuss. And of course, we have our chat. So let me see if I can get the chat on here. So for the people that are live, um, feel free to come in the chat and come and ask us questions. If you have your own prediction, just bring in your own prediction. And I was just looking at the stream board and I saw that were zero watchers, but actually no, there is people online. It's a
That's
glitch again.
good.
So sometimes it's glitching. We are only at two now, but I'm sure it will go up anyways. So if you have questions or if you have your own prediction, feel free to drop us a message in the live chat. Um, Maybe if you have a good prediction, maybe next time we will invite you. So our next one will be in January of 2021. And my plan was actually, if I find somebody. Hi, Georgie. I hope I say that
From
correctly.
Georgia.
Georgi.
From Georgia.
Ah,
Ooh,
from Georgia. Wow. So yeah, we are social distanced fairly well. Spread
doing
across
really
the
well
world. Thank you,
now.
thank you for coming in, and thank you for watching. Okay, so let me go back to the deck now. Here we go. So let's start with the first prediction, and that's Daniel's card. So Daniel, what's on your mind?
I would say the very first and obvious one to go with is going to be an increased attack on remote infrastructure as we continue to go through the pandemic. As we've seen over the last year, I guess we could say now, been a long time we've been in lockdown. A lot of industries have been forced to shut down. In fact, Los Angeles just, I think, last night went into another lockdown, where employees like in the information technology industry, even people in the food, agriculture, and water industry all have to work remote. And because of this, they're using email, VPN, RDP. Now, these employees, when they're in the office, most of the time they're just using email. They might not even be using VPN or RDP, but because they are remote and they are in their own facilities or their own home offices, there is an increased uh, attack landscape there for them, right? So basically, with people working at home, there is a greater risk of remote attacks. And criminals know this. They're looking at people, they're leaving the hard HQs, the brick and mortar type of offices, and they're going back to their home infrastructure. And this is a weak point that criminals can actually capitalize on, and something that we've seen throughout the years, specifically with VPN. There's been tons of VPN vulnerabilities going around, and sadly enough, we've seen a few compromises too as well. So This is something that companies really need to focus on going into 2021 is securing not only their VPN infrastructure, but their RDP infrastructure. And something that we'll get into a little later in a couple of other predictions is email as well. Email is going to be another form of threat going into 2021. So that's going
Yeah,
to be the first and most obvious prediction. And as Pascal said, it's they don't have overlap, but they all align. So there's going to be a common theme running through here as far as how attackers are going to monopolize on the attack infrastructure in 2021.
yeah, it will probably not be any surprise to anyone that you took out remote infrastructure as one of the trends that will continue and especially increase because VPNs have been vulnerable. It was already abused from 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So the big brands, enterprise VPNs that had vulnerabilities that could be abused already. So we saw that throughout the year, and then especially with the people actually hastily setting up remote access for their employees to be able to work remotely. Some of those setups they were not updated, they were not maintained. And now lately, I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, there was that leak with 50,000 usernames and passwords from on the internet, where actually credentials of VPNs were leaked for multiple companies with the IP addresses. So it even made the news in Belgium, which I don't watch quite often, but a friend told me, hey, there's cybersecurity on the news. You might want to watch that because it's your area. So it
Yeah, and
was
I would
there,
say this
yeah.
is definitely an obvious prediction. I mean, as you said, since 2019, many researchers, including us, other people like Bad Packets, and journalists have been covering almost seems weekly a VPN or an RDP type of a vulnerability or attack that's
Yeah.
going on, or at least being exploited. So, as I said, going into 2021, IT administration staffs need to be aware of these remote infrastructure, and this is something that they might not necessarily be familiar with. So that's something that they might need help, and other people might need to reach out to them and let them know, like, hey, you need to update your VPN.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I had to peek what my prediction was. I forgot which order it was in. So
No,
so
you're all
the
good.
yeah, now I remember what I predicted. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes can be hard to remember. So yeah, so one of the things that I see evolving, so and we had that evolving, yeah, we have been tracking that since 2016 when Mirai hit and it was IP cameras and then we started talking about IoT and connected devices and we talked
Mhm.
about smart devices that were actually equal to connected. I would not say that the devices were really smart; they were just connected. And the S for stands for smart for sure, not for secure in IoT. That we do all know. But I think that smart devices next year, and I'm not so much talking about our toasters or our heating systems at home, but I'm more thinking about the smart cities, manufacturing, so plants where you have the automation in the manufacturing plant itself, transport and logistics, that those will become more autonomous. So instead of being connected, become more smart by themselves, still be connected, but less connected. So meaning that they can work on themselves. What are the problems when you are connected? So the things that you're struggling with is latency, because yeah, if you have to talk to an online cloud service that is centralized, well, it takes a long time to go to that cloud and come back. So for real-time systems that need to react on things that are happening in the physical world, that would not work. So that is an obvious example of why a device need to be able to react by itself. Then you have the availability of connectivity. So if the connectivity drops away, it can happen. You can be under attack, but it can also be that you just have a glitch or the power goes out and you're running on batteries. But yeah, you don't control, of course, the ISP that you're connected to. Um, so there can be many reasons why you lose connectivity. It can also be the cloud that goes out. So if your service runs in a cloud, maybe the connectivity is still there, but the service is not there to connect to. So that system must be smart enough to keep on running by itself and take enough steps. And then the other part, of course, the most important part for us is the security. So the more you are connected, the more you open, and the more you interact with an external service that does everything, well, the bigger your attack service will be, because in your API you need to expose so many different things. So there's so much more that attackers would be able to do to explore in your API. So I think that smart devices will become more smarter and do the connection on top of that, but the connection will be about remote monitoring. And we saw that during the pandemic. Everybody was looking to do remote work, but one part of our industry was unable to do that. That's people who are working in a plant. If you have a factory, if you need somebody physical to work there, so those people at some point will be might be replaced by robots who can do the work at the same time, but somebody needs to supervise that, and that
Well, I think
supervision can happen by monitoring. Yeah, yeah, Daniel.
I was going to say also with COVID and everything, to your point about how everything is becoming transferring from being connected to the autonomous, we're also looking at a series of devices that are reaching a point of maturity where they are going from connected to autonomous. But while we're also in this COVID era, we're seeing new devices coming online and being connected. So it's like we're
Uh-huh.
now seeing a cyclical cycle of all this information happening.
Yeah. So, but now, of course, I already said latency is there, and there's the connectivity, availability of the connectivity. But we see that there's new technologies that came around already a couple of years ago, but now start to become mainstream. And of course, the one that everybody will know is 5G. So 5G, the mobile connectivity, which allows you to put a sensor anywhere in the field, and you should be able to make it operate remotely if it's a smart sensor. But also technologies like mobile edge compute and edge cloud services. So instead of having the service running in the central cloud, in a central cloud instance where the latency is too big to go and talk, now more and more we see that those clouds are moving towards the edge. And the example that I always use there is like a smart city where you have a red light and an autonomous car. So when the light is about to go to red, the light can signal the car to tell him, hey, it's about to become red. So you might slow down. Instead of braking, just power down that you use less electricity. So it might be one way to get more greener and to get more efficient. But in order for that light to communicate with the car, if the light has to go all the way to the internet, to the cloud, and then from the cloud it needs to come back to the car, that will take too much time. So you need something that's closer. Of course, you can directly signal, but direct connectivity, yeah, there's lots of problems with possibility of interference. So what typically you would do is have a service running very close to the edge of the network, so at the base of the mobile antenna, so the mobile edge compute, as we say. And in that service, you can have the API for the red light to actually signal to that API, hey, signal to all the cars that are in my area that it will be red in the next 1 second. So, and every car that comes in the area will register with that API and will get that information in real time. So that's how you solve the latency problem. Of course, the backend cloud will still exist. So you still have a central instance in the cloud that takes the analytics and all the other information. So he will do the central instance in the cloud does the big data, but the edge cloud will do the actual interfacing with the devices and will make the fast real-time decisions, which opens up a new attack surface, of course, because it's interacting with the edge. So that means that everybody who's on that mobile network or connected network will be able to get access to that API as well. So your threat surface is like expanding not from a central point, but to a distributed point again. Good. So, and we have a question. Let me just transition. So instead of IoT depends of counties, also important is looking to COVID internet sales. Oh yeah, yeah. We're gonna come back to that. We're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
come
for
back to
sure.
the COVID sales. Yeah. So more and more businesses that go online. So online businesses, and especially now in this quarter, I think that many businesses are counting on this holiday season online to be able to make up for a really bad year because most of them have been closed. In Belgium, for example, yeah, the shops now reopened like this week, but shopping is still very limited. Only one person can go in, maximum 30 minutes. Um, so those shops, yeah, I think that online will be their way to save whatever they can save this year. I'm not gonna say to make revenue or to make a successful year because it will not be a successful year for most of them.
Well, one
But
of the things I noticed here in America is that Black Friday kind of didn't exist. There wasn't people going out to the mall lining up. You
Uh-huh.
didn't see huge trampling of people. You saw what I consider was Cyber Monday extended to Friday. That
Yeah.
all the Cyber Monday deals kind of ramped up on Friday, and they're trying to give people the availability to order online versus come into the store. Which it
Yeah.
goes and backs up to your point as far as the connection automation and everything is moving to a digital world here.
Yeah, exactly. And also spreading. So yeah, you can say that if they start the promotion on Monday, instead of only doing it on Friday, they will spread the load across the whole week instead of having all people coming together in the shop on the same day. So
Yeah.
that is also what I hear. But we will come back to that topic. So it's a very good comment, Georgi, and we will certainly come back to that. And it's not only the shopping, but also the scalpers and the whole Xbox and PS5. But we running a little bit forward on what we're gonna talk about.
Anybody get a PS5 or a GPU this week? No, no, no. Hey, I
No,
heard
no, I
I
don't.
heard the scalpers actually had a refund. The scalpers that hit the Xbox,
Yeah.
they had all their orders returned. So
Oh yeah, so the 1,000 that they bought,
victory.
they shouldn't have refunded them. Let's just hope they're
It's,
not
it,
listening.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, another prediction that is again for me. So the internet becomes one big interconnected service factory, and that actually ties into what I just said about edge cloud and APIs running in the edge cloud and the mobile edge, and then connecting into a central instance. And that will also come tie back into a prediction that Daniel's gonna make in a second. But as you see that, as you look at the mobile applications that we're using today, every mobile application is like a single page web app, and that web app is actually powered by an API in the backend. And to stay consistent, the backend will be leveraged by the web application itself, by a mobile front end, so a what we call a persistent app on the mobile, or it can be a full mobile app that just uses the same API. So we're moving towards API for the web applications. Another trend that is happening that we see in organization is that there's not one cloud to rule them all, and sometimes they want to put eggs in different baskets. So what they do is, well, they take some services from one of the major clouds and then from another of the major clouds. And yeah, let's just give out the names. They have AWS, you have Google, you have Azure as the major players in cloud. Well, most of the organization have at least two of them where they have services running. Well, it is good to put your eggs in different clouds, I would say, but at the same time, you're also interconnecting those clouds, and those services also need to talk to each other. So we start to create that full mesh of interconnected services from the edge to the central cloud in the different clouds that we have. And by doing that, it's like a full meshed hierarchy. And if one component comes out there, if one falls down, then the whole system is impacted and all of our applications are impacted. So, oh yeah, I will come back to the comment in a second. So, and that centralization, we saw it happening with the attack of on Dyn DNS. Remember when Dyn DNS was attacked? It was so many of the large services, including Netflix and Facebook, that were impacted. Why? Because everybody had their DNS over there. And you would think that after 3 years, people would have spread their DNS. Actually, there was very recently, there was a report. I don't remember who brought it out, which reporter it was, but there was a report that said that people moved to other big DNS parties, but actually we're still very much concentrated. Again, it's not like we are completely distributed and spread out across different DNSs. So it's not like the problem is solved already with DNS. But cloud goes in the same direction. The more we converge, the more we centralize, the more impacting it is to have one component fail. So if you would have all your programs running in one cloud and that one fails, your whole application is gone. But what we're doing now is like, okay, we're gonna use that service from this cloud and that service in this cloud and that service in this cloud. So now you're increasing your probability because if one of the three fails, your application is down. So that's a little bit of the problem of the distributed and the centralized. And yeah, if I look at the internet right now with all the APIs that are out there, we are becoming one big interconnected service factory, and that is something that Daniel will also talk about in the next part.
Yeah, another. obvious but probably true prediction here is that we're going to see larger impacts due to the centralization of the internet, and this is something that we've seen almost every year for the last several years now. Is that as Pascal was previously commenting about, is as we move to a more connected society and we're putting all of our eggs in one basket. When an outage happens, malicious or non-malicious, just from a simple fat finger attack to a DDoS attack, we're going to see more widespread outages. And for example, the most recent one, the AWS outage that happened last week, several of their products went down, and people were sitting in their homes wondering why their devices weren't working. Devices that you would never necessarily think were connected um, to AWS in that way, but they are. And that's the thing, is most common users of these devices don't understand what they're connected to and what they're calling back. And so when AWS goes down and all of a sudden their IoT devices in their home stop working, it becomes a problem. And the worst part about this is people aren't really kind of considering the long-term effects of this. They can, as Pascal said, they continue to do this. They continue to centralize. And even as another service comes around and people move to that, it's still somewhat centralized. You have, AWS, and you have several other ISPs and conglomerates out there that hold a large amount of the users and activity online. So when they go down, there's massive issues, and we're going to start seeing more collateral damage, as I say, where you see something go down as far as AWS, but then normal people at home with their IoT devices start realizing that, hey, like my Roomba or my doorbell or whatever it may be is not working now. It's kind of a problem when you can't get into your house type of thing because your internet is dead or your backend service is dead. It kind of leads to me to talk about a little bit of having physical backups. Like don't just strictly rely on IoT connected devices inside your house, because as we move forward and we don't solve this problem, we have more widespread outages. It's going to become a greater impact for the users at home, and probably taking away that um, reason why they went to go get it, right? So, if my Roomba goes out, I gotta still vacuum, and if I don't have a vacuum, how am I going to clean up, right? So you kind of world where you both need.
Do you
Um,
really think that the new millennium has a vacuum cleaner as a backup for his Roomba?
it's funny.
So
It's
a
hard for
Dyson
me to
and a
say that
Roomba,
because, like,
okay.
me personally, I have a vacuum, but I don't have a Roomba. I don't
Uh,
trust these electronic. Recently I was looking at homes and stuff like that, and they have all these homes that have these Bluetooth locks on them and everything. And I looked at the contractor and said, "That's the first thing I'm going to change." He's like, "Why? Everybody wants it." Like, oh, well, just because they want it doesn't mean it's secure, type of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I
So
am
yeah,
very much pro automation and smart in the house and automated lights, but there's one thing that I don't touch and that I'm not automating, and that's my doorbell and the lock on the door. The lock on the door, I know it can also be broken in, but at least it cannot be done remotely, and vulnerabilities are limited to losing your key, right? And and and
yeah,
and the bell as well. If you look at the doorbell, how many times that people that you read reviews and people say, okay, well, somebody pushed on the doorbell, but I only got the notification like 5 minutes later. Well, hell, if you're sitting next to your door and your door is an online doorbell and it lets you know like 10 minutes too late that there was somebody at the door. You're sitting right next to the door. Come on, just have two wires go to a signal that says, "Hello, there's somebody at the door." And you can even have a camera connected to that. So there are some things that are so we have some comments in the chat as well on that.
so remember the guy who hacked the coffee machine? There's actually some really good ones too. What was that? The draft hacking guy that was sending all the stuff to the printers and stuff. That I found that really hilarious.
So there's a trend now that is anti-scalper. You waste their time by ordering it but not paying. Oh yeah. So to the comment of Bernard, I don't know if it's in. Yeah, I have the French accent. So Bernard or Bernard. So that's a really good comment. And yeah, we saw a real fight out there where the scalpers were trying to sell off their goods on the online marketplaces, and you actually had people building sniper bots who go in and who just put
Yeah.
insane amounts of money on the bid, and they just take out their bids by making it like $10,000 for and that was for the Nvidia GPU cards, for example. That
Yeah, I
happened.
was gonna say, didn't we talk about that on the last live stream about how they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
running up the price and they had a
exactly.
picture on eBay
Yeah,
say that please don't
yeah,
actually bid on
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. So the this is an advertisement for a picture of a GPU card, and then you had like that
Yeah.
manually drawn, really badly drawn picture by somebody on a small paper. So if you're interested in that conversation, go check the episode number 5. So we talked about this in quite some length, and it will come back here as well. So remember the guy who hacked the coffee machine? That's going the way more common with these devices. So yeah, and not only coffee machines. What I'm
Like
more
you said, the printers and everything. Yeah.
yeah, printers, but also kids. So devices that are
Oh yeah.
that kids are playing with that have cameras and that interact with kid, but have their intelligence in the cloud. Because yeah, they cannot put it in the doll or in the beer. I'm especially afraid of that because kids are very vulnerable. Now, luckily, kids and data protection are a very hot issue. So but yeah, going forward, everything that's connected, we saw all the dangers, but it's not only that. Now we're mainly talking about, yeah, if Amazon falls out, well, your daughter cannot play with her doll anymore because her doll is now suddenly had a lobotomy. So she's not reacting to anything anymore because her cloud is down. So yeah, an impact on AWS can have a big impact on your home. Your kids cannot play, you cannot open your door, your washing machine refuses to work. Why? Yeah, well,
Well,
because Amazon is impacted because we have all those
and you
services
think about it, in
centrally.
2015, our biggest concern at Christmas was someone DDoSing Xbox and PlayStation so we couldn't play a game.
Hmm.
But now we're 5 years down the road, and they target a central service like AWS, and it's not just video games; it's your toys, it's your dolls, it's
Yeah,
it's your Roombas, it's your doorbell, it's
yeah.
everything.
So I have to clean myself. I cannot play with my toy, and I can't watch TV because my Netflix is down as well because it's running on S3 instances. So it's gonna be and I cannot go outside because there's a pandemic there. So yeah, that sounds like Christmas in 2020. Yeah,
I hope
that's true.
everybody has a book and some candles.
We're going down a very dark rabbit hole here, so I think we go just to the next
Yeah, we'll go to the
prediction.
next one, which is even another dark rabbit hole.
Uh,
This is something I've been blogging about the last few weeks. About the election. I know no one wants to talk about it at this point, but in general, I think that there are going to be an increase in advanced non-nation state users. So by that I mean um, normal users are learning the skills, specifically the TTPs that are being used by APT groups and other cyber criminal organizations. Now, while I'm saying they're not specifically that big of a threat compared to like APT groups, they are learning, and that's the thing is that the evolution of learning and the process that it's going to go through. Sooner or later, these little bears are going to become big bears. So I foresee in 2021 more localized operations by local citizens to influence and disrupt processes inside their country, and then in likelihood, not nation state and APT actors will be amplifying their activity. So I expect that non-nation state users and localized users will become a more formidable threat, and they will actually get more attention because of the amplification from actual nation state APT groups.
yeah, I think that ties in another prediction that we have coming at the end, and what we
Yeah.
have seen what we have seen happening throughout all the year. It's the amplification of messages by individuals. It's like when you're on Twitter or on Facebook, you have such a reach now with all those digital media that you didn't have before. So it's very easy. If you have a clever idea for a conspiracy, you throw it on YouTube and you'll be sure to have hundreds of thousands of users. Actually, if you want to make money on YouTube, don't do it with reviews. There's already so many people doing that. Just put a conspiracy out there and you will make lots of money and have lots of viewers and subscribers. I'm pretty sure. And
to
also,
to, to,
yeah,
just to take a deep dive on that one,
yeah,
um, it's kind of like the old days of Anonymous, where they'd make these videos on YouTube about their operations and who they're attacking, and they get paid ad revenue for that. And now you look at that, that's gone. But the QAnon people, who are the
hmm
conspiracy theory, Anonymous 2.0, whatever you want to call them, they're making these, like you said, conspiracy videos, and they're putting on YouTube, and they get hundreds of thousands of people following, and they're
yeah,
making advertisement revenues
yeah.
offhand. It's very interesting to see how it steps down, and like one group progresses and another group steps up to take that place. And as I was saying, at this point, it seems to be localized normal users that are learning the skills that criminal hackers have.
Yeah, and it's not only that, it's also the whole system that is built around it. What made Facebook and YouTube famous? It's their algorithms, knowing that okay, when you click on this video, we know that so you have a certain preference, so we will take that into account to show you the options for the next video. And when you click on the next conspiracy one, before you know it, all you see on YouTube is conspiracy theories. And then you
Yeah.
say, "Oh, if there's so many videos on YouTube, it must be true, right?" So yeah, the impact and the influence by a single individual can be much larger and is much more amplified, I believe, by everything that's digitally connected. And we will suffer from that going forward as well. And that comes back in another prediction. So this is not being the non-nation state user, but yeah, it's more about the fake news, and that will come on the end. Now, do you believe that nation states might leverage the knowledge and the creativity of the those single users? Because
Well, yeah, that's what I was a little bit talking about as far as the amplification part
hmm
goes. Is that if you look at the U.S. election, we have this whole entire system set up to identify false information, misinformation, disinformation, whatever you want to call it, and that didn't do a damn thing, in my opinion. Like people kept spreading the information, people are amplifying it, and I think during that process, a lot of local users kind of figured out that hey, I could make something up and post a tweet about it, and most likely, my state-sponsored criminals are going to come in and amplify that, or they're gonna post it out. And not to name names or anything, but inside the United States, you saw a lot of citizens saying things, and other people in power retweeting it or reposting it, and that was a problem. That was a serious problem, and it just kind of showed that a normal citizen could say something, and a powerful political person can amplify it, and it becomes a bigger problem than it is. That they didn't need to set it up, they didn't need to tell anybody, they didn't need to pay anybody off. Just an individual with their own free will decided to do it, and I think that nation states will actually start amplifying that kind of activity versus conducting that activity on their own, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, I can see where you're going with that. Not that I like it.
None of us like it.
So we're at prediction number 6. And yeah, and it's also not so. Yeah, one thing to say about predictions, we are not making those crazy predictions that look far away in the future and that might things that maybe never happen. We're just looking at trends. So we see trends of this year and we just throw them through into next year. And that's what people will have to be looking for in 2021 if they want to secure themselves or if they want to put something online or move their business online. So it's not the crazy predictions that we're running, but I think it's the ones that make sense and that is worth discussing. So
Logical and accurate, as I would say.
well, let's drop the accurate, logical. We will see the accurate when we come back at the end of 2021, right? Uh, so the internet connectivity providers will need to provision more bandwidth access to provide for internet's gray noise, and that's something that I have been talking about all year, is that gray noise. And I see this happening on my line at home as well, where I have my honeypots running. When you look into your honeypots, there's so much noise going on the internet, and somebody has
Yeah,
to pay for that. And yeah, actually, NetScout has a name for that. They call it the DDoS tax for everything that comes from
I
DDoS
saw
attacks.
that. Yeah,
So,
that was a
and
good article. Yeah,
yeah, well, they actually are fairly accurate with their description of calling it a tax because everybody is paying for the fact that someone somewhere is performing a DDoS attack, and it has to go through our service provider or exchange or whoever provides internet services and wherever traffic is passing through before it comes into a cloud that can eliminate or drop the packets that sees it as a DDoS attack. Well, it has to go somewhere. So, and that bandwidth, somebody has to pay for it. And who's paying for it? Well, the ISPs are paying for it, but indirectly, we are paying for it, of course. So it's some kind of internet tax. We always said that the some people wanted to put tax on the internet. Well, there you go. It comes in the
it was a
form
few
of
years
gray
ago.
noise. Yeah.
A few years ago, I was giving a presentation down in Bogota, Colombia, and I was asked a question I couldn't answer, and it's a question we can't answer either at this moment. But the question is, at what point in time are ISPs and other organizations going to begin blocking this traffic instead of letting it go all the way through? Um,
Yeah,
I'm not going to
in
answer the
ter
rest of that question, but
yeah, yeah, but in
it is a question that we need to begin thinking about in the
yeah.
future.
Yeah, but that in terms of DDoS attacks, that means that every ISP will need to have a good DDoS detection, and yeah, and still even then, imagine somewhere in Brazil there's a user that tries to connect to your website, and there's a DDoS system that thinks, oh, that user is a bot, I'm gonna block him here. Look at the
Right.
how you gonna find that out as an end user? So you have to go through multiple people to get to the right ISP to find out that he blocked it and why he blocked it and to deblock it. So it becomes an operational nightmare. So that
Well, I say
that
the
will
gray noise is pushing. I'd say the gray noise is pushing a problem to the forefront. It was something
oh yeah
that was never really
yeah
considered before everything was
mhm,
connected. But now that everything is connected and there's so much noise, we have new problems that we have to address in the
yeah.
immediate future type of thing.
Yeah, well, you have the attacks on one side, which is DDoS, which obviously have a big impact. If you have a 1 terabit per second DDoS coming from the US to Europe, well, that line will be taxed. That DDoS attack must come over here, unless, and that's why we have the DN distributed. The distributor should be mitigated as close as possible to the source. So if you have a mitigation and an anycast of that European IP, and you put that in the US, okay, you can block it in the US. So that's solved. But if you don't do that, it has to come all the way across. Now, DDoS is one thing. The other thing that I see a lot and happening more and more, and I have been reluctant to do it, but at some point, I think I will give in and say, "Oh, what the hell? I'm gonna do it anyway." So it's white hat scanning, just to find out what is the attack surface, what is the risk, what is the impact. There's many companies out there. Shodan, you have Gray Noise
Gray noise,
itself. Good name, by
bad
the way.
packets. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about bad packets. Is he scanning as well? Uh, I
No, no, I don't think he's scanning. He's actually received. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
he's on the receiving end and he's flagging them on Twitter. So he actually looking after it. So
yeah.
when you do righteous scanning, so if you scan as a white hat, one of the things that you do is make sure that your IP address is reversible. So I did some scans in the past, very limited. I did like 2 total internet scans. That's about it, just to find out a new vulnerability. What is the impact? How big is the attack surface on the internet? So, and what you do is you need to make sure that your IP address is reversible so that whenever somebody does an NS lookup on your IP address, they get the full host name or the domain name where it originates from. And then when they go to the website, I have a web page with my picture, with my profile, who am I, what scans am I doing? So that is responsible scanning because otherwise people receive that IP address and they think you're a potential attacker, right? Some people don't want you to scan, so you need to leave a trail. You need to be able for them to contact you and say, okay, I want to be excluded from your scans because I don't like what you're doing. So I want to explicitly be excluded. But there's so many scans going on. It's amazing, and not everyone is following the responsible way of disclosing their scans, and that makes for a lot of gray noise as well. So it's not only the DDoS, but it's also the black hat scan. Yeah, they are not responsible, but yeah, that's not their aim, right? They want to find
Right,
vulnerabilities,
right.
so they just spray and pray. So black hats, gray hats, white hats, we're all scanning the internet, but that puts a certain level of traffic on that internet, and that's what I refer to with the gray noise. So on one side you have the DDoS attacks, and then on the other side you have all that scanning going on. So actually your internet is never idle. It's impossible to be idle, and all this traffic needs to go somewhere. So that is something that we need to take into account when we do sizing of the network.
Yeah, and also as you said, this increase in bandwidth also limits the pipe. So it makes it a
Yeah.
little bit easier for people to degrade service in a malicious way.
Okay. So Bernard has a good comment. I attack anyone who sport scans me. Yeah, I don't think we
Can
want to
I
go.
legally
Yeah.
approve of that? Let me get a lawyer on the phone real quick.
Yeah, so hacking, if hacking back is allowed or not, and if it's good or not. So yeah, so there's other things as well besides the legality. What if the IP address was spoofed, right? Or that was a compromised server that was used for scanning you, or it was a modem from a company that was compromised, and that modem runs a bot, and that bot is scanning you. So yeah, if you're attacking them, yeah, you might be attacking the wrong party there as well. So it's not always that clear cut if you can attack back, but
Just a little caveat here that I want to throw in there is, over the last few years, we've always talked about attribution is never a great thing, and you shouldn't really get into it unless you're very, very certain behind it. But recently during the election, U.S. Cyber Command did some attribution and some hacking back in just a few hours, which kind of shifted the scale from a research and general conversation point that we can move a little bit quicker and attribute a little bit faster. So watch out, criminals. Next year could
mhm,
be a
yeah.
fun one for you.
Yeah, but you're right, Bernard, and I like your attitude very much. It's like, okay, when you see that somebody is sports scanning you, you go look into it, and you're gonna see what they're up to and if they're a risk or not, and that makes a lot of sense because it's an indicator that somebody might be trying to hack you. Just be aware about that gray noise that I just said. There's so many scanners out there. And we see it in our honeypots as well. Sometimes we see in our honeypots, and I even see it in our DDoS attack logs, when we look at DDoS attacks and the statistics, there's a good amount of certain traffic that is detected by our detectors. But that's just an attempt to search for a specific service that is open or not. It's just a scan. So those things can easily lead to false positives and people losing a lot of time because they again go down the wrong rabbit hole. They see somebody scanning them. Okay, well, that's an attacker. I'm under attack, so I need to make sure that I put something in place. I need to maybe even report it. So that's why
Yeah, and
responsible
also
scanning is so important.
we had talked about this a little bit too, as far as investigating and researching, anything that comes and touches your network. And while it might be non-malicious in other attempts, other scans that we've looked at, like say the ecstasy IRC botnet, that was giving you signals that there is malicious activity to come. So it is very good to look into it. But back to the
Yeah.
main point, with so much gray noise and so many hours in the day, it becomes very difficult to figure out what is your main priority.
Yeah, so it not only puts a tax on the internet, but Bernard is right. It also puts a tax on the fact that we cannot make the difference anymore. Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
Daniel. It's another one for me. And we,
that's okay.
I already touched on it. Well, we each got five, so you get the same airtime. But you got the opening statement and you get the closing. So the last word is for you, my friend. I made sure you have it.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. I appreciate that.
so the bad bot problem, it will continue very strong growth. So and that's what I've seen for this year. This year we saw lots of bots coming in, and I'm talking all kinds of bots. So we already discussed the PS5 and the Xbox Series X scalping, the Nvidia scalping that was going on. So that was a nice example, and that spread really fast and really wild on YouTube more than any other scalping campaign. It's not like scalping is something new. We've seen scalping for years in ticketing service, and but it's the first time that that I see it so much in the common press and especially in the gaming world because they yeah
Yeah, I
they
think the gaming world definitely took scalping uh, by the year for this one.
by the horns,
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, I think I had talked to you a few times on
Yeah.
non-recorded, but my neighbor has a bunch of PlayStations that he had gone out and purchased with bots, and he's selling them for like $1,000 a piece, which is crazy. But the guy is not really so technical, right? Like it's a normal person that has now
Mm.
figured out how to use a bot to their advantage, and it's something I briefly touched on a few years ago when it came down to hoodies and shoes. That um, you don't have to be a hacker. You don't even have to be technically savvy
Oh yeah,
to
no,
figure these
absolutely no.
to figure this out anymore. Which adds to the gray noise conversation. Is that it's not just malicious actors or hackers that are building scripts to go buy something faster. It's normal people are buying tools or building the tools on their own because there's tons of YouTube videos that teach them how to do this.
Yeah,
And
not only building the tools, as with DDoS, you have DDoS as a service, those convenient portals like booters and stressors that you go in, you just subscribe. Well, you have the same for scalper bots, and whether you want shoes, whether you want scalping because actually the PS5 and the Xbox scalpers, that was a group of people who are renting those services, so that it looks more like a media stunt to advertise their services, where they said, well, you should have taken our service and then you would have had an Xbox or PlayStation. Now we were able to acquire 3,500 of them. It's your own fault, you know?
yeah, and you know, it's something interesting is about like the scalpers and their objectives, right? Like, are they just looking to mark up the price by 100, 200%, or are they actually like legitimately buying them for a business where the markup is only a few dollars? You know, it's very hard to distinguish between what a bot's objective is with that product once they get it. I think we've seen a couple other issues with scalping where people had taken all the tickets so people can't go see the performance, or they take the tickets so they could actually sell it for a higher rate. But there are some people that buy them just to flip them. So it's hard to distinguish what exactly is going on with some of these scalpers.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, the latest that I heard from PlayStation is that they are ready to launch lots or to make available lots of stock so that actually price cannot go that high. You know, if you overflood the market with stock, nobody wants it
Yeah,
anymore. So scalpers are out there with their systems, and nobody's gonna buy them anyway. So
I mean, that's
that's
what I've been personally predicting outside of our 10 predictions
mhm,
is that Sony and Microsoft are going to do a fairly large drop closer to Christmas, leaving a lot of these scalpers holding the bag. Having multiple devices that they no longer can sell for $1,000 a piece, that they have to sell for $50 below, market price because they're all in the stores again. And
yeah.
once the Target down the street has PlayStations in for 2 or 3 days, my neighbor's business model is screwed. So, yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
let's hope on the gaming industry to deliver, right?
Yeah, I'm moving to the chat because Bernard has a good comment again. And also Chandra, will ransomware be in the top? I do think that you talked
I get
about
that
it.
to my
Yeah.
next one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. How can it not be? I would
Yeah.
say. And Bernard, yeah, to your questions, yeah, those sellers, they didn't even put precautions for it. So no
Yeah.
captchas, no nothing. Yeah, they just leave it wide
But see,
open.
this goes to the comment. I always have this large debate about the shoes and hoodies and things.
Hmm.
Does the company actually care?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, PlayStation, Microsoft, Adidas, whoever it is that you're buying gear from, they get their money. They,
Well,
they
yeah.
sell out. I to say that. So,
The moment they
in a
start to
way,
care is when people start to be angry, like now.
well, that's what I was going to go to is like Nike kind of start figuring out people are getting mad. So they start with a sneaker app, and this of course the sneaker app's
Mhm.
just a total nightmare because it's almost impossible to get shoes on it. Everybody takes losses. They either have a very small limited quantity, or people are still using the bots on it. And that's the thing is when there is a market and there's an underground for it, there is going to be people motivated to learn how to defeat the system, and that's going to be an ongoing problem for no matter what is sold online. If there's hype around it, there are going to be people that are going to want to go out and buy it instantly. And if you don't have a bot, you're at a disadvantage. And that's where a lot of people argue, like, oh, the world will be fair once everybody has an e-commerce bot. And so I don't think that that's going to be the world. I think that's a funny line, though. But it's a tit for tat thing.
Yeah.
We make advances in mitigation, and they make advances in bypassing it. So,
So,
uh,
so when people sell something online, they need to take into account that there's like $10 off, so that you can buy a bot to be able to buy the product. Is that what you're saying? Everybody needs a bot,
yeah.
so you need to have that subscription anyway. So if you want to have online shopping as a normal person, you need to rent a bot for to get your stuff. Otherwise, but
There's
yeah.
it's a joint argument in the sneaker community, at least, about
Yeah.
if everybody should have a bot or if bots should be banned altogether.
Yeah.
There's no right answer to it. It's one of
Well,
those questions that just needs
well,
some more thought.
yeah, well, banning it, yeah, you can ban it, but that will not stop anyone from using it, right? So you need to
Yeah.
have protection. So to Bernard's point, yeah, those didn't have protection. And do they care? No, they don't, because it got sold anyway. If it's 1,000 to one person or it's 1,000 to 1,000 different persons, they don't care. They will see their money anyway. And there is a gray market anyway, but at some point it starts to get back at them, at their brand. So it is an impact on brand reputation. and it can impact them severely, especially because those things like shoes, like what you said, Daniel, Nike, it's a brand that lives on the fact that people love it, and those exclusive shoes, people just they want to go after them, and if it's not possible anymore, they will lose a lot of people, and they will move on to another brand that does the same thing but does it with protection. So yeah, so you can protect yourself against bots. We cannot ban bots, but you can ban it legally, but that doesn't mean that nobody will use it. But there is bot management systems, but it's not, yeah, it's still, like Daniel said, they will always find new tricks and new ways to
Yeah,
get
as long as
around
there's hype.
bots. Yeah.
A little side tangent here about some hype that happened recently here in Colorado is that we got In and Out. And the first day of In and Out, there was a 14-hour line. I'm not joking. There was a 14-hour line of people waiting in line in freezing cold weather and in their cars as well to get a burger. But entrepreneurs be entrepreneurs, and there's these people called line waiters that actually waited in line for you and texted you when they got to a certain spot, and you came and paid them and took their space. And
Ah, okay.
that's what I'm saying. Like no matter what, as long as there's hype,
Yeah, they will
like
find
even
a
if
way
you
around it.
took away
Yeah.
all the bots, yeah, they will find a way around
Now that was only a small part of the bot problem of this year, actually,
it.
because you also have the account takeovers. So account takeovers has been going on, especially on the financial market since 2019, and has been growing steadily. We see, especially credential stuffing there, and it has been improving and growing a lot more. We see in the statistics that we have much more account takeovers, and yeah, those are then used to sell accounts on underground. So it's like the leaks, da- lots of data records from a leak come on the underground. Somebody is sanitizing them. What are they doing? Well, they go to an online service and they try the username and password. If the username and password works, oh, they have a hit. Okay, suddenly the value of that record is increasing exponentially, so they can resell it for much more money. So that's where ATO happens, and then somebody who wants to infect an organization, they can find, or they want to hack an organization, well, it's always good to go look on the underground, and they might find actually a username and password from a user. They don't even need to do phishing. They can just buy it on the underground because somebody has the username password.
One of the things I found interesting with credential stuffing this year is that the actors behind credential stuffing either don't know rate limiting or they're going way too hard, but
Mm.
they've been causing some outages here and there that
Yeah,
people have
yeah,
mistaken
absolutely.
for DDoS
Yeah.
attacks. And that just shows you how serious they are about compromising accounts, that they're just out there willy nilly going full speed to the wall. So,
Yeah, well, yeah, they just launched their ATO, and they're not even looking if the site is still available or not. So that is like prohibiting yourself to perform an efficient attack, because you're performing a DDoS attack on the website, so you don't get the results of your ATO attack anymore. But yeah, so some of those campaigns, and I've said that in some of my presentations, sometimes ATO takes like the looks like a DDoS attack, and it's actually becoming harder to see the difference between a DDoS for a DDoS or an ATO causing a DDoS, you know.
yeah.
Um, and then there was also the scraping. So scraping of important articles, especially now during COVID, everybody's looking for information, real-time information. Everybody's looking for research and articles on vaccination right now, which vaccine is good, and so on. So bad guys find again a way to monetize or to get benefit from that. What they do is they go out with bots, they scrape all the best articles, they bring them together on one website that is so interesting that nobody can miss it. You go in there, but then at the same time, that same website is also ridden with malware downloads and drive-by downloads and ads, and so they just try to attract you by taking illegal information and putting it out there. And SEO as well. And yeah, you can talk to your latest blog, Daniel, because you came back up
Yeah,
with
I
it
was I
because
was actually about to jump in on this. That in 2020, who would think that Black Hat SEO type of work was still popular? But
oh,
there are
SEO, by the way, is search
yeah,
engine optimization.
optimization.
Yeah,
Yes. So even in 2020 on our blog, we see people that are coming in trying to post generic comments that have nothing to do with what the blog's about, with their name there, with their name going to a backlink, and they're just spamming willy nilly every blog that fits their
right.
keyword. And
Yeah, it's
I figured they know that the Google algorithm works a little different in 2020, but
well, still you bought that old bot, so you have to make it work, right? It's
got
just
to be
adding
number
to the
one on
gray
Google.
noise again. Yeah, adding to the gray noise.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
the plain old vulnerability scanning. So there is my gray noise. So the plain old vulnerability scanning. And yeah, why do I say that this problem is not gonna go away? Well, we saw it coming up in strength, especially now this year, and the pandemic has a lot to do with it. But going forward, it will only grow. And one of the reasons is, well, many businesses are moving online. We saw it now. They now accelerated that move to online business because we already said it. They had a really bad year. They want to make up for it. The way to make up for it is in the golden quarter. So right now, with the holidays, have an online business and try to make the best of this year. Now, those businesses will stay online. So the attack surface is becoming bigger. And another point that I already touched upon is the APIs. So more and more of those applications are run by an API backend. Well, what is an API? Well, that is something that speaks the language of machines. And that means that a bot, it's much easier to program a bot that talks to an API than a bot that has to go to a web page and scrape and post forms. So you just talk to the API straight to the API. So you're actually enabling bots to do much better work uh, compared to users. So, and also it becomes much more difficult to make the difference between a human and a bot because an API, there's not a human that will interact with your API. It's not supposed to. It will always be a machine. It will be a mobile app on your phone where the user sits behind the mobile app, but the user is interacting with the mobile app. The user is not interacting directly with the API. It's the machine, it's your device that is connecting the API. So it's much more machine to machine. So things like CAPTCHA and other Turing tests, yeah, even though I don't really believe in them, but they will not help. So APIs, more APIs, I think we will see more bots and more threats from those bots.
Yeah, for sure. So, prediction number eight. We're going to go a little bit past
Ah,
time here, so
yeah.
I hope
Oh,
everybody can stick around a little bit here.
sorry, I had too much fun. I wasn't looking at the time.
Yeah, we both kind of did.
Yeah.
So prediction number eight is ransomware will continue to rule land. I don't think this is a brain buster. I
Yeah.
think it's very obvious for a lot of people. But the thing I want to talk about is I think 2021 is specifically going to be the year of the lure. We kind of saw this going into COVID and also into election. But in general, the world population is a little hysterical at the moment, a little bit overreacting to everything, which primes the situation for criminals to look to hook you, right? So, a lure in general, when ransomware and phishing, is going to be an email that entices you to click on something. So, in the modern context, COVID-related phishing themes that have to do with vaccination, early access, and who can get it. These are going to be things that will strike fear in a lot of people around the world, and they will click on the link. And because of this, they will be infected with ransomware.
Yep.
This is a major issue that we're dealing with right now in 2020. And going into 2021, I think it's going to be a lot worse as there's more dramatic issues going on in the global population.
Yeah. Yeah, and that fake news ties into that one as well, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to hang on ransomware too long, but
Yeah.
that's ransomware is going to be the payload delivered through phishing,
Hmm.
and phishing is going to require a lure, and that lure is going to require fake news.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna drive and thrive on fake news, and that was also my prediction that fake news not will become, but will have to become a second nature to any one of us. I just say get used to it. There is no silver bullet. Like Bernard said with the bots there, there's no silver bullet with the bots. But the same for fake news. We saw it come up very strongly this year, especially with the pandemic and then the presidential elections. Put it again in the news. Fake news will be there, so be careful. Um, the
One
yeah.
thing about fake news I want to just throw out there is that I was talking with my buddy about this just like maybe a few hours ago. 5 years ago when you said something crazy, people just said that you were a crazy tinfoil conspiracy theorist, and they kind of laughed about it, like, "Oh, that's funny. Yeah, vaccinations will just kill everybody." But now when someone says it, you kind of have to stop and look at them, like, "Do you really believe that, or are you saying that as a joke?" And you know,
Mhm.
that's why I say a little bit of context of the year, lure, and people being just over emotionally compromised.
Yeah.
Fake news is a hard one to digest now. You either have to ignore it completely, or you have to spend a lot of time and resources trying to verify this one little piece of information, and it might not even apply to you,
Yeah.
but it becomes such a social topic that you actually spend this time looking into it. That's why I said in one of my blogs, the best way to deal with misinformation, disinformation, whatever you want to call it, um, is ignore it.
Mhm.
And that's the problem, is when you ignore it, you take the power away from the people. Um, I don't think we live in a society where we can ignore fake news at the moment or anything emotional or dramatic, but we will sooner or later move away from this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we have seen that companies like Facebook and Twitter have been trying to fight it with AI, or better say deep learning, and yeah, that was also one of my predictions, but they didn't make it in my top five. Was about AI. AI has a big problem, is that whatever AI didn't see before, if it didn't exist before, AI will not invent it, you know?
Yeah,
So AI is just big data and generalizing on trends that they see in a large amount of samples of big data. So if you don't have a sample for it that came out in the past, you will not be able to predict the future for another sample if it's true or false. And we saw lots of bad classification, automated detection. It doesn't work. And then you come to the point where classifying versus censoring, because then it becomes like, yeah, but you're taking away the right of people to speak up. People have the right to talk, right? So is it classification or is it censoring?
it's a slippery slope, and it's one that we're
Yeah.
going to have to really take serious in 2021.
Yeah, and it's one that I'm taking back. So I did a lot of talks on AI in security, how you use AI and deep learning in security. That's like 2 years ago. And one of my first slides was that slide between false positive, and so sensitivity of detection and false positives. And one of the thing is an attacker doesn't care about false positives, and that is his strength. So the attacker can use a lot of AI to fool us. He can use deep fakes, so it's very possible to use a deep fake or create a fake video. However, to use an AI to detect the deep fake video, it's much more difficult. And if the AI that generates the deep fake and it fails, nobody believes it because it's so crappy and so bad. Nobody cares. The attacker doesn't care. He just tries again another time.
Yep.
However, if the detection fails and says, "Oh, this video is a fake," and actually it was a real one, well, you're shot, man. You cannot make that mistake. So defenders do care about false positives. Attackers do not care about false positives, and that's the important point for me when going forward in AI and deep learning. Having all those systems with probabilities, if you care about false positives, it's very dangerous. If you don't care about false positives, you can apply it anywhere. And there's so many tools online. Again, the same as with bots. If you want a scalper bot, you go online, there's a website for it, you just subscribe to it. If you want to do DDoS attacks, you go online, you subscribe for it, you do it. If you want fake news, you go online, there's a tool for it, you subscribe for it, you make your fake news. So it's like a new trend coming. Everything's digitalization, right?
Yeah, and that
People,
kind of feeds into our next prediction, or our
yeah,
last prediction,
yeah.
the increase in COVID propaganda. Now, this kind of has to do with fake news, but this is very specific. Going into the next few months, we are going to see an increased amount of COVID propaganda related to reporting numbers, infection numbers, death. We're also going to see propaganda related to PPEs and the use of them, if the masks were working or not working, as we see new spikes and waves come through. And we'll also see a lot of propaganda related to the vaccination and side effects and if it's safe or not. I think I even read this morning that the last three presidents of the United States are going to be vaccinated live on TV to show people that
Oh yeah.
um, there's no problem with it. Yeah.
Yeah, but is it true or not? Is it real stuff that's in the vaccination, or will it be a placebo, or how do we call it?
We'll all have to find out and see. That's the problem, is conspiracy theorists will
Uh,
be able to say,
yeah.
hey, Bush took a fake placebo on national television. They're going to use it in a lure, and they're going to send it to QAnon on people, and they're going to
Hmm.
click on it. And
Yeah.
their corporate computers, their personal computers are going to become
Yeah.
ransomware. That's why we say that these are aligned predictions. It's if one happens, they're usually going to run through the top 10.
Yeah.
So
See, See what happened? I used to be a funny guy, and now everything you tell me, I doubt it, and I have to find counter examples why it cannot be true and why it's false news. That's what happened to me in 2020 by reading all the false news and seeing all these things happening.
I would have to say it happened to me too. I've lost my funny bone when it comes down to these jokes.
Okay, but that brings us to the end, and I made a summary of all the predictions. So to go through it just quickly, for the sake of time, not that we have a set amount of time that we say that we want to keep in between, but so our top 10 predictions for 2021 is an increase in attacks on remote infrastructure, like during the ongoing pandemic, smart devices that will evolve from connected to autonomous devices and become much more standalone. The internet that becomes one big interconnected service factory. It is already, but it will continue and it will become more of a problem because, as Daniel said, there will be larger impacts due to that centralization. And also an increase in advanced non-nation state users online. Internet connectivity providers will need to provision more bandwidth in excess because you have that gray noise going on, and everybody will pay for that tax, if you can call it that. Bad bot problem continues to grow strongly, and yeah, we saw. It's been an amazing year for bots, I have to say. So many examples
Oh
that
yeah,
were out there. And then the fake news that will become second nature, and then tied to that is an increase in COVID propaganda. So you are warned, right?
very warned. The
So
the predictions have been made.
yeah. Well, it's not so much crazy predictions, right? We are not
No.
here to make the crazy predictions that say that a robot will explode in front of a moving train and kill 500 people. No, that is not the kind of predictions that we're in, right? Or there will be a nuclear leak and an incident somewhere. In no, we are not. We're trying to stay positive. We try
No,
to see
I
the
want to say
trends and
all that happened in 2019.
yeah, well, yeah, actually, if you take everything that happened in 2020 and you just superposition it in time to 2021 and you give it all everything that we saw and learned, give it 1 year to mature, I think that 2021 looks like a real big disaster. So let's just hope that we don't start as strong in 2021 as we did start in 2020, and that we start with some fun and not too much attacks and okay, not maybe good for business, but at least give us a break, okay? Just let us breathe
Yeah.
for 1 month. Let's get our act together. Let our businesses flourish online, and I think that everybody will become better from it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
Hopefully
anyway,
things will get better.
yeah. So this was our last Threat Researchers Live for this year. We just came to six, so we started this year doing that almost monthly. Sometimes we skip a month, sometimes we skip 2 months. But we try to we not try to get back. We will be back in 2021, that's for sure. Unless you have other plans, Daniel, but I think
No, no.
no.
The one thing I
Okay.
do want to say to my hacker friends is no fireworks on New Year's Eve. We can't
Uh-huh.
lose any fingers going to 2021 because we have some challenges ahead of us.
That's why I put fireworks on this deck. That
Yeah, it's just kind of reminded me. Like I had to say to everybody, don't play with fireworks.
firework will have to be digital. So you send up a couple of drones with lights and you make a light spectacle with drones. So I don't know if that is allowed, but it should be, no. Uh,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they ban that
so
too.
we will be back in 2021 and we try to keep a cadence at least for once a month to bring you the latest and our opinion on the news. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you everyone for the comments. Bernard, especially great comments. Georgi, also thank you very much for your comments. Chandra, I hope that I had that right. Thank you for your question. Don't hesitate. Put a comment in the. I will put the slides. I will put a comment in below here on YouTube, and I will give you the link for the slides. And actually, I believe it's already in there. But I still need to publish the slides. So give us 1 or 2 days to get the slides online, and then you will have access to the PDF version of the slides. If you have any question, come to the comments or come to our Twitter or contact Radware directly. They know where to find us. So feel free to reach out. Thank you very much. Have a good end of year, and we hope to see you in full force in 2021.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Take care.